Hey guys, this is Daryl Henry recording a video for my construction entrepreneurs out there. I want to talking about auto insurance for contractors. What are some things that you need to know? First off, let's go through some of the basics of coverage, but then I want to talk about maybe some recommendations on limits and some mistakes that I see people make and things to watch out for. So going through the different parts of the program, first, liability insurance is damage that you cause to other people or to people riding in the car. So if you're in a work truck, your rear ends a family van, the damage that you caused is what liability insurance pays for. So that person's vehicle, their medical bills, maybe they hop out of the car and say, man, my neck hurts. You're on the hook for the bodily injury damages there. And when you're looking at different auto insurance policies, they'll write it one of a couple ways. Sometimes you'll see what's called split limit, which means the insurance company says we'll pay this much for bodily injury per person, this much for someone getting bodily injury or someone getting hurt in an accident, and this much for property damage or stuff that you broke. And they'll break that into three parts, which that can get a little bit complicated when you think about how much coverage do I need. A better way, an easier way to keep track of it is when they call it combined single limit. And they just give you one bucket of money and says, whatever you hurt, whatever you broke, this is your bucket of money. I usually recommend people look at $1 million because it's really not that hard in a vehicle to cause more than $1 million of medical bills if you get into a terrible accident. So that's the liability part of auto insurance. And then after that, you got to think about your own vehicles. It's comprehensive, comprehensive and collision. So collision is if you're at fault, coverage for your vehicle. And comprehensive is everything else. It's deer, it's a rock kicking up on the highway and hurting your windshield. It's flood. It's everything else that's not collision. And when you're thinking about your trucks, look at how much they cost to buy new versus how much you're paying for an insurance. And that's how you can make a business decision on whether it's worth it or not. One other thought as I'm talking through liability and damage to your truck that comes up a lot is when you get hit by somebody that either doesn't have insurance or doesn't have enough insurance. God bless America. God bless the system. The people that tend to have no insurance and break the law are typically people with terrible driving records. And they don't buy insurance because they don't think it's important and they think it's too expensive. That's called underinsured and uninsured motorist coverage. It's actually a liability coverage. So that's how you think about those couple of categories. And then people do like to ask about rental reimbursement and towing. They want to know if the truck is in the shop, is there going to be money to rent a new truck? And then if the truck is in an accident and needs to get towed somewhere, is there going to be money for that? It depends on the company. You have to look at each. A lot of companies will just bake it in, but it's worth drilling down into it. So a couple thoughts on mistakes that contractors and business owners in general do and make with auto insurance, especially on commercial auto insurance. You got to make sure that the vehicle that you're insuring on the policy, the name on the policy matches the name on the title. That's really, really important. So sometimes what people will do is they'll have an LLC and then they'll buy vehicles in their personal name and they'll try and make those two things mix. You got to get special consideration from an insurance company that you're going to do it because the auto insurance policy as it's written, a commercial auto insurance policy is going to say, we cover the vehicles listed on this policy that are owned in the name of our insured, which that insured is the business, not necessarily you personally. So that's really, really important. And another mistake that I see people make a lot has to do with covered drivers. So what people will do, and I know that there's tax reasons for buying a vehicle in the business name. You can call it a business expense. But let's talk about it from an insurance perspective for just a moment. From an insurance perspective, if you buy a personal vehicle Commercial auto insurance policies define who are allowed to drive the vehicle, and it's people that are in the business. Usually people, sometimes depending on the company, they have to be specifically approved by the company. So if you buy a vehicle in the business for the tax deduction and it's for personal use, and then you let your kid drive with a terrible driving record, that kid may or may not be covered. There's a lot of situations where they are not covered. So you have to think about the rules of the auto insurance policy when you think about what type of vehicle you're going to buy and put on that auto insurance policy. If you're willing to play within the rules, hey, that's fine, go for it. But just don't try and bend the rules and then think that you automatically have coverage because it's on an insurance policy, because they've seen these games over and over again. Don't try and bend them. All right. Hey, thanks for listening. This is Daryl Henry helping out my construction entrepreneurs. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Thanks.